Welcome back to the Pageant Gal podcast, to part two of the Six Reigns, Six Lessons two-part series episode. For those that don't know, and first of all, if you didn't go watch episode one, go back and watch it. Okay. If you're one of my gals who's like, you're just trying to get to the good stuff, trust me when I say all of these reigns had good lessons in it. And you're just here for part two. We're here for part two. So, for those that don't know, I just passed on my sixth pageant title. It was Miss Via Italia. It just ended. If you're listening to this, like as close as to the timeline as it happened just a few weeks ago. So I thought it would be a really fun idea to share the six biggest lessons that I learned from six of the pageant reigns that I've had, some local, some national, some virtual, most in person. And in episode one, part one of this, we did the first three titles that I had, which were Miss Tecumseh, Miss Canada, Royal International Miss Canada. And now we must go on to the other three. So without further ado, let's go into it. And this is also going to be a really great insight for those of you that aren't aware of the pageants that I've competed in and won. Gonna take us down memory lane. And now we're going to the three most recent pageant titles. But each of them really does build off the other. Trust me when I say being a title holder teaches you so much about yourself, so much about the opportunities around you. And the biggest thing I want to know if you're listening to this, whether or not you're currently a title holder looking to capitalize on your reign, or you're a pageant hopeful delegate who wants to have your reign, the biggest thing I want you to know through all of these lessons is that you can't do it wrong. And I think our mind will trick us into thinking like we're not doing enough and that we're wasting time and that it's the once in a lifetime and then we're never going to get to do it again. And I just want you to know after having six of these opportunities and what I'm going to put out into the universe as many more, because you know your gal is never done, don't let your mind trick you into thinking that you're doing something wrong. Okay, because you're learning and you're growing and you're taking on a new opportunity. And of course, you're going to look back and think, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I could have done this. And it's just important that you remember you got to this point because you earned the opportunity. So don't spend the entire reign thinking about the things that you could have done, you shouldn't have done. And there's going to be more of those lessons that we're going to talk about in today's episode, part two. So let's dive right in, my gals, to title number four. Title number four. So if you remember from part one, I had said that back in January or February of 2021, I won Royal International Ms. Canada, which gave me the opportunity to compete at Royal International Ms. just 4 months later in July of 2021. July of 2021. So this was I think my third international pageant in a system that is much more aligned with my personal brand and what I naturally stand for. And I'm sure I have many episodes on Royal International Miss and the whole experience, but the whole idea is that I won their international role model title. And at this type of system, there's actually two titles that you could win. You could win the divisional title or the role model title. So I was part of the role model cohort, if you will, and both sets of title holders got to do everything together. So within our reigning sisterhood, there were 14 title holders. That is a lot of gals. That is a lot of ladies. And then you got to remember they all have their family members, and we've got partners, and we've got moms and dads and sisters and alumni and team. A lot of people involved in the Royal International Miss Sisterhood, especially because it was their 10th anniversary. So it was the biggest year, and it was after COVID. So they had a lot of rollover delegates who couldn't come the year prior. Long story short, it was a massive opportunity, massive, massive opportunity, massive competition. A lot of my methodology and the strategies that I actually teach in my programs and the process of competing that I teach to my clients, if you're in something like the Queen Collective, comes from my time competing and winning Royal International Miss and being a title holder with them, just because I got such a complete like full circle experience going from local to national to international title holder that it really just solidified my way of doing things, and I just learned a lot more about myself in the pageant industry and the way that I wanted to coach through winning that title. So let's go back through it. What you win when you win Royal International Ms., or in my case the international role model title, is a lot. I could probably do a whole episode just on all of the things that we got, because it is like Disneyland Christmas for pageant girls. It is insane. Like anything you could ever want gift wise, you pretty much get in your time as a title holder. And even after, if you continue to go back to different trips and go back to internationals, which I was able to go back for one trip so far just in the years passing. But the bigger things that you got to do were one, you got a cruise, a Royal Caribbean cruise. There is a fall trip that you get to do. There's opportunities to go to New York Fashion Week. They have boot camp, which is like this whole mini pageant prep conference, all for Royal International Miss. There is a lot of opportunities. And again, you got to think because there's 14 girls in the sisterhood and everyone's in a different state or a different country. At the time, I was the only international delegate or title holder because several other international countries just weren't able to come due to COVID still being affected by their country. But I was international. But the whole idea is that there's a lot of people. This sisterhood's been around for 10 years. So that's 10 years of alumni, 10 years of connections, 10 years of networking. There's always more opportunities coming up, opportunities to travel, different things to do as a group, individually. A lot that happens that year. And that brings me to the lesson to start or to be in the middle. Like I told you all, sometimes I'm going to go into the story, sometimes it's an explanation, and then we get to the lesson. But the lesson that I had in my time as an international title holder was truly to remember that the title opens up such big doors and you have to be willing to walk through them and to say yes. Because when I think about the three prior titles that I had, and again, when you think about where I was at in my life, I was in my early 20s for most of these. And then I think by the time I won the RIM Canada title, I was 25 yeah, I was 25. I was turning 26 when I won the international title. I was so young and you just don't, I didn't have a ton of like decades of pageant experience. I'd only been competing for 5 years or so. And it's safe to say, I was still in a very like in a little box. I was in my little Maria box, in my little Maria shell of, oh, I don't know what I can really do. And so that did impact the opportunities that I took on and didn't take on. Even though I had done a lot, I still didn't fully know what I was capable of. And when I won the Royal International or the International Role Model title, and I saw that someone like me coming from Canada, coming from Windsor, Ontario, and I've seen a lot of girls around me, especially in my area, who are like the tall 6 foot, like size zero, size two, statuesque, go on to win Miss World Canada and Miss Supranational Canada. And I just looked and I was like, okay, I'm looking up at them because I'm short, I'm 5'2", and I come from a nursing background. And I started when I was 21. Like I don't got the filler and the augmentation. I don't have these things. I'm like, but I'm walking in New York Fashion Week. But I'm going to Miss USA and meeting Miss USA and Miss Teen USA and like the owner of the events. And I'm going on a cruise and I'm doing photo shoots and people literally across the world in the sisterhood are reaching out and my business is growing. And this is really what opened my eyes to seeing that this is not meant to be the end destination. This is meant to be the catalyst and the vehicle to something so much greater that can truly change your life if you allow it. And the thing is, that opportunity was always there for me. Pageantry was always opening doors for me at the local, at the international, at the national, with the travels, with the events, with the learnings. But it was something unlocked within me when I won this international title that I saw and I knew. And I literally remember standing in the top two, holding hands with Courtney. She's from Minnesota. And when they had announced that she was the first runner up, I remember thinking and hearing the universe literally say to me, Maria, this has always been within you. It was never outside of you. It was never something that you had to like work for or get to. It was always within you. And now is the time that it's finally clicking and actualizing in your reality. And had I been aware that this level of success and bigness and legacy and win was available to me at my first pageant, I might have said yes to so many more opportunities. I might have sought out bigger opportunities. I might have invested so much more, so much sooner because I would have known that the dreams that I said I had for myself in pageantry and the dreams that I maybe didn't even say because I didn't even know they were possible, I just would have been more active in making them a bigger deal. And if you're listening to this episode, I hope and know that this is landing with those who it needs to land with. But the way to making your life completely change and your pageant journey a bigger deal is you make it a bigger deal now. The opportunity doesn't come with the title. It comes from within you and saying yes and saying it's bigger and I'm stepping into my potential and I'm saying yes to new opportunities. And you will look back. I think probably a collective thing that anybody will do in any area of life is you're going to look back and wish that you would have done more, that you would have tried harder, that you would have taken on more of the opportunities. I think that's like a collective thing. And I used to work as a hospice nurse. So I've heard this a lot is that you look back and you just wish that you would have had more fun and tried new things and invested more and did more. And this was the year of me saying, I'm saying yes to all the things. I'm saying yes to all of the doors that are opening, even though I didn't fully have, my business figured out, even though I was only working part-time, even though it was COVID and I was spending way more to travel on flights to get COVID tests. They were like hundreds of dollars for one COVID test. And I was getting them like twice a month, every single month. And I was like, I do not care. I'm saying yes. I'm saying yes to the opportunities. Oh, New York Fashion Week came up and I have to pay for all of it. Okay, let's do it. Awesome. Which so many people get, I made a whole reel about it and people got so upset. They were like, that they shouldn't have done. I'm like, everyone chill. I knew I had to pay for New York Fashion Week and I was more than happy to. Okay. Why are people getting upset? And then Miss USA came up, not covered. Awesome, let's do it. Boot camp came up, the RIM boot camp. I wasn't originally supposed to go. I signed up. I got my flight. I got my hotel 2 weeks prior because it was like, no, I'm gonna look back and wish that I would have done all of these things and more. So say yes, pageantry is meant to open up bigger doors and bigger opportunities. And you're going to face moments where it's going to feel unrealistic. And you are going to enter that like feeling of, oh my gosh, am I delusional? Am I being irresponsible? Like, this is so much money. This is so much time. This doesn't make sense. And those that say, yes, I'm going to do it anyways, are truly listening to your calling. A lot of women will wait till the crown comes on or wait till the validation happens or wait for the permission for them to do the things that they want to do, for them to say yes to bigger opportunities, for you to even dream of the opportunity so that the door can start to open, you recognize and you go through it. Royal my role model, my royal role model title was the year where I realized that this was always meant to be so much bigger than the pageant. Even though I was doing all of these really big things, and it's funny because their motto is actually the experience of a lifetime. I knew it wasn't the experience of a lifetime because this was my life and it was something that I was going to continue making my life. I wasn't just going to do all of these amazing things in one year. I was committed to living a life of excellence and being a queen even beyond. And that's really when everything started taking off for me and my business, for me and my brand, for people knowing Maria the pageant gal was from that year. Even though, technically it was I don't want to say it's the secondary title because it's a whole competition on its own, but I made it what it was. I made the legacy after what it got to be. So wherever you're at right now, title, no title, title in the future, a contestant, maybe you're a director listening to this or whoever you are, the pageant is meant to open up bigger doors and opportunities. And I want you to focus on what is that for you and start thinking about it and just putting it into your mind's eye and recognizing where it's taking you because it's going to take you so much farther than you can even imagine. And I don't think enough people are actually picking their chin up and looking ahead at where they want to go and believing and really just knowing and dreaming in what's possible. And that's why we have a lot of comparison. We have a lot of doubt because everyone's just looking at what question are they going to ask? Should I wear a blue gown or a red gown? And she's competing and she won this. Nobody's actually thinking about how powerful and limitless you are. And if you're listening to this, I know that's what you want. And that's why I'm spending a lot of time on this title in particular because it unlocks something within me. And because there's no reason why I had to make that title the biggest deal that it got to be. There's no reason why just because, and I'll give you an example again, 14 women in this sisterhood, a lot of them go on to coach. A lot of women in my sisterhood are also pageant coaches. I don't know, there have been a lot of them who've come to me and asked me for advice because my business has grown so much bigger, so much faster than the one that they've had for 5, 10, 20 years before I did. And that's not a shame to them. Like it's just what it is. But it's because I make my opportunities and my vision a way bigger deal. Frank is in my office right now. He just woke up from a nap. Hello, Babas. Okay. That's our sign to go on to the next title. To the next title. So overall, the lesson here, pageantry is meant to be a vehicle to your greatness. It is meant to open up doors when you decide that this is so much bigger for you. And when you decide to say yes, anybody can have a calling, anybody can have doors open for them. Opportunities are literally everywhere. But you have to be someone who's willing to say yes to them and to walk through all of them. So that was the lesson, or a ball of lessons for my international title, which honestly I thought was going to take me like 10 years, even more to do. I was literally ready for it to be like, okay, like there's a lot of girls who want this, Maria, and you've got a lot of improvement to do with some of these things. So if it takes you time, it's going to take you time. And it didn't. It happened when it happened. And going on to the next title, which is ironic, is that I probably had like the biggest mental block for competing after passing on my international title because in a way, I was done, right? Like, okay, you won the local, you won the national, you got the international title. You're owning that you want to be a full-time coach. You're investing in building the business. Things are popping off, things are clicking. Why do you need to compete? I'm sure there's some people probably listening to this who've thought that too, right? It's like you're done. You got the thing you wanted to get. Now focus on the business. Lots of people do that, right? And I remember for probably about a full year and a half when I was going to different pageants and when I was volunteering or sponsoring different events, that was the story that I'd had in my mind. That I did it, I got the trifecta, local, national, international. Now I'm going to focus on being a coach. Okay, building the coaching business was going really well. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, like I guess that's it. We did it. 5 years. Wash our hands of it. It was a good time. We've got the crowns, we'll put them in the case, and we'll help everyone else be a queen. And I remember going to so many pageants. Obviously, I do this. I go to pageants, I watch pageants. Pageants are my life. I am the pageant gal. And I remember thinking almost every time I was sitting in an audience, very much so when I was in person watching pageants or helping out backstage, the biggest thing that kept going off in my mind was, I wish I was up there. It didn't matter the size of the pageant either, by the way. And it was never oh, I could beat all these girls. I hate it when title holders do that. Oh my gosh, that's the ickiest thing ever. Don't do that. It was never I could beat all of them. I want to be up there. Like, I should show them who's, but like, never have I ever competed from that energy. But it was always just this feeling of, like, I love that feeling. Oh, like I wish I was up there with them. Like they look like they're having so much fun. And yeah, I know their feet hurt and they're probably tired and they're scared, but like, oh, I wish I was up there. And it didn't matter if it was one of the local pageants I was helping with backstage. It didn't matter if it was a national pageant I was watching in the audience. It didn't matter if I was watching Miss Universe Canada. Like every pageant I would go and watch, I'd be like, I wish I was up there. And eventually I was like, why am I not up there? Who says I'm done? Who says that's it? Why does that have to be it? And I just started questioning that thought that honestly nobody put in my mind. It was just kind of in in my head. It was just kind of a story that I've heard some people say, but I was so aware that that wasn't the only truth because I would see other women who had won the type of international title I did still go on and compete. And I loved seeing that because that gave me permission that, Maria, you don't have to be done. If you love this, why would you stop yourself from doing something that you love? It reminded me, you know what it reminded me of? So much of soccer. When you kind of turn like 18, 19, and I would still play, and the girls around me, I would ask them like if they were playing or if they wanted to like come and sub for a team, and they'd be like, no, like we're too old for that. I was like, too old for that? What are you talking about? You're too old to take care of your health? What, you're too done being a queen? And I was like, no, I don't want to be done. And granted, like this might not be for everybody. And guess what? That's good because I'm not supposed to be for everybody. I'm here for a very specific type of gal who doesn't want to be done. You don't want to be done the game. You don't want to be done the growth. You don't want to be done, especially when every time you go back into the arena, your heart is screaming, I want to go again. I want to go again. Even though I knew every time I was sitting in there, I was like, Maria, are you sure? That's scary. That's a lot of work. It's a big investment. You've already got it. Like you could hang your heels up and just chill and focus on building the business, right? Like saying yes to a pageant is no small thing, my gals. I get that it's a big deal. And every time I was like, I want to do this. So that's what brought me to Ms. Regional Canada 2024, run by the incredible Cheryl Kozera, somebody who is a mentor and a dear friend of mine, who I was mainly looking at this system because several years prior, actually, when I was the international role model title holder, Cheryl reached out to me to come judge the pageant that was happening that year, and then she had held um, the older age division pageant for it. And then I went there and I spoke at it and I helped with hair and makeup and I got to watch it happen. It was one of the pageants that I watched and I thought, I wish I was up there. It just had such great sisterhood vibes. And so when thinking about competing again, and again, you got to think about like where I was at in my life. I had just gotten engaged, or I knew I was about to get engaged. I knew Carlos and I were going to probably end up buying a house at some point, potentially starting a family, planning a wedding. There was a lot on my plate at that time that I thought, you know what? I want to come back to Canada. I want to come back to Canada and just compete in Canada. And eventually, when I just got over this idea of you don't have to be done, you get to keep going. There's always going to be a new level. You always get to be learning. You get to be a beginner and you get to keep growing. You're never done growing. That was when I said yes. And I said, I'm doing this. I don't care what people think. I don't care what people say. I'm focusing on what I'm saying and I'm focusing on what I'm doing. And what I want to do is compete and go. And every time, it always comes with the caveat of, okay, if I compete, am I okay with losing? And the answer was always yes, because I can't lose. So the lesson in the fifth title win, which was Ms. Regional Canada 2024, is that you don't ever have to be done and that you're never done learning and growing. And it's so okay to go every single time you compete and be a beginner. Because it could have been so easy for me to be complacent, me to be like, I've got this, I know what I'm doing, and underestimate every other delegate who's competing. And I never competed from that mindset. I was like, absolutely not. If I'm doing this, it's because I'm going back down. I've got to, okay, let me practice my T pose. Let me go through my interview strategy. And if anything, through competing in this pageant, it helped me really refine and lock in my coaching strategies. And every time I compete, I'm going through the process that I'm teaching my clients. And it helps me lock in and refine and tweak things that I can tell maybe are outdated or that I want to update in my processes. That's actually when Pageant Gal Radio was born, which was like you got to come behind the scenes with me while I competed. And I shared all of the tips, all of the mindset things, all of the stuff that was coming up. You're never done. You don't got to be done, Pageant Gal. You don't ever have to be done being a queen. You don't ever have to be done investing in yourself. You don't ever have to be done. It's always the thing that I've not understood about the pageant industry. It's like everyone invests, everyone takes action, everyone works for just the title. And then once the pageant is done, win or lose, everyone stops. No more investing, no more training, no more working at it, no more platform for years until they decide to compete again. And that's never been me because I'm always learning and I'm never done. Let's go to, because this episode is getting to be a lengthy one. And I think Frank wants to go out of my office soon. But the last title, Miss Via Italia 2025. So I was actually at Ms. Regional Canada 2025 passing on the title when the notification pops up on my phone that they're bringing the Miss Via Italia pageant back, which was the very first pageant I ever competed in. And I remember thinking, oh, that's so sweet because it had been gone. Like, here's the significance of this, my gals. It had been gone for 6 years. Miss Via Italia had not been up and running since pre-COVID. And so to see it pop up the same day that I'm passing on my title, and what they share is that, oh, the winner gets to go to Miss Universe Canada. Oh, that's interesting. Because every year I'd see Miss Via Italia happen, and I'd always think, it's a great system, but I'm at the time, again, think 2018, my goal was to win an international pageant. Miss Via Italia stayed more so just locally, like in the community. So at the time, it just never felt aligned. I was like, I'm going internationally. I want systems. I want to compete in systems that will take me to internationals. But now, with the new lessons of pageantry is meant to open up new doors and opportunities, and I'm saying yes to them, and I've got bigger goals. And with the lesson of I'm never done, I'm always learning, I'm always a beginner, I'm always willing to refine and work and strategize and put myself in the arena. And then Miss Via Italia registration pops up. I messaged the director. I said, hey, Melina, shout out Melina, my gal. I say, hey, girl, can you be married and compete? Can you be over 30? Because those were rules before that you couldn't do. She says, yep, we're abiding by all of the Miss Universe and Miss Universe Canada rules. You can be married, you can have kids, you can be over 18, any age. And I thought, all right, now this is aligned. This feels like a big yes. This feels exciting. And I was actually in the airport applying. I was in the airport on the way home from the regional Canada pageants and I was applying for Miss Via Italia. Because again, if there's something you gotta know about me, gals, is that when I say I'm gonna compete, I'm 99.999% of the time going to compete. Going to compete. I've already decided. I'm already saying yes. I'm already like shopping for dresses and planning out my interview strategy. And we won. We won Miss Via Italia 2025. I keep wanting to go through the whole story of how I prepared. Maybe if y'all want an episode like six reigns, six pageant prep stories, maybe we can do something like that. Maybe that would be a fun one. If you want that podcast episode, let me know. You'll have to DM me at the pageant gal. So win Miss Via Italia, get the opportunity to go to Miss Universe Canada, get to be back at like the grassroots pageant community. And now it's been, just over a year since I won that title at the time of recording this episode. And this reign was not what I expected. This reign was not what I expected, my gal. So at the time when I was competing, one of the other questions that I asked the director was, is it okay to have children? Because at the time I was expecting. And she said, yep. I said, awesome. Because I might be, competing at Miss Universe Canada. And that's the situation. I figured, if they said all the rules apply, all the rules apply. And it was actually 2 weeks after. I think it was about 2 weeks after, right around that, winning Miss Via Italia. So I hit Miss Universe Canada prep hard because I only had 6 weeks. So it's like the day after I was contacting sponsors, I was contacting radio, media, getting outfits together, planning my event, working on the strategy, working on the walk, getting things together. And it was about 2 weeks after winning Miss Via Italia that my situation had changed. And unfortunately, we lost the first pregnancy. And that was really hard. Like, I think I can truly say in a very like blessed sort of way, that was the hardest thing I'd ever gone through. And I really seriously did not know what the path forward looked like, not just with pageants, but with anything. You just feel like you're in such a bubble of like, what is going on? Why is this happening? And what I didn't realize at that time was that that was not going to be the only hardship that I faced this year. And that it actually started a series of hardships that I really could not have ever prepared for in life. Life is funny like that. And this year, looking back, could have really, like, I could have a really big story about how much this last year sucked. I could have a really big story about how, maybe I wasn't meant to win and maybe I should have just let somebody else have it because I had to cancel more events this year than ever before. I did not do nearly the amount of things that I intended to and that I said out loud that I was going to do because my time, my energy, and just these unprecedented things kept happening. This will be in a book one day. And this is when I learned, like looking back, I can truly say I had the most incredible reign. I had the best time. I don't know if y'all can hear. Frank is like crying off to the side. Frank, this is an emotional episode, man. You were here for all of this. You know what happened. This was the most incredible reign, though. I loved every single second of being Miss Via Italia and the events that I got to go to and the things that I did get to do. And like coming back into the local Windsor Essex pageant community that I kind of felt disconnected from for like 5 years or so. And I got to come back and I got to compete and I got to be with local sisters and women who I had like seen and kind of known over the year and get close to them. And I got to come back into the community and make more community connections and just, I got to enjoy the parts that I did get to do. And if I had to have one main lesson that kind of I want to ball up every lesson into, even though I probably could say this with all of them, it is that have so much gratitude and enjoy every single moment that you do get to have. Do not stress about the events that you can't go to. Do not stress about the hardships that come up. Do not worry about the people who give you an opportunity and then it gets taken away, or you were supposed to do a photo shoot or this cool event and then it ends up getting canceled or rained out. Enjoy and have so much gratitude for the things that you do get to do. It can be our mind likes to play tricks and say that, oh, like there's so much negativity and I'm not doing enough. But the opposite of that is truly having gratitude. And again, it goes back to a different point that I said nobody else can have the expectation of your reign aside from yourself. And my version of success and fulfillment over this last year quickly went from I'm gonna again have the best like reign and go to all the events and do all of the things to I'm going to deeply enjoy and be so I'm going to enjoy and be so grateful for the things that I do get to do, for the events I do get to go to, not for the ones that, and I'm not going to hold or harbor any stress or resentment for the things I don't get to do, for all of the things that I had to cancel. And if you're just in my circle, like you just know how many things I was saying yes to, and then something would come up and I'm like, I can't say yes. I have to honor myself and what I'm going through in this very real human experience. Plans change and it's okay. And just because you're not able to do things the way that you hoped or anticipated, it doesn't mean it was a bad rain. It doesn't mean it was unsuccessful. But truly to like love and appreciate the events that I did get to go to, even if I only got to go to one event this year, and I didn't, I got to do so many incredible things this year. I was going to pour my heart into it every time I did get to go to an event and appreciate all of the things that happened in my life to bring me to this moment, to have this reign, to get to go to these events. And I can truly say that I see a lot of women who get so upset when something doesn't work out, as if they're not the queen, as if more opportunities won't come, as if the other opportunities didn't even matter because this one thing didn't work out. And this year really taught me to feel into the gratitude, to enjoy every event, whether it was a local parade or an online appearance or an event I was invited to or helping out with a local pageant, whatever it was, I had so much gratitude for this reign. And that is the biggest thing I want for all of you, win or lose, title or no title, event or no event. Have so much gratitude for the things that you get to do. Celebrate and appreciate everything that you get to do because it does go by quick. 365 days goes by very, very quick. And of course, there's always going to be more that you can do, but take it from me. The way to feeling more fulfilled in your reign is to appreciate what is right now. That is the sixth lesson of the six reigns, Miss Via Italia 2025. If you've made it this far, thank you. I want you to DM me on Instagram your biggest takeaway. I love to hear from each of you, and I just love seeing where each of you is at and how you're applying this. I have to go let my dog out of the office, but that has been part two of the Pageant Gal podcast, six reigns, six lessons. Thank you, y'all, for making it this far. And for those of you that are like, this girl, whatever Maria is on, I need to be a part of this. Like, this woman is a queen. She's doing big things, and I'm a queen. I'm doing big things. I want to open up to all the opportunities to building my global movement. Check out the show notes to apply for the Queen Collective below. That is our 6-month pageant mastermind, where we don't just win pageants and dominate the stage, but we open up doors and opportunities and become the queen of our life in the process. So thank you for listening to these 2 episodes, to this episode, and I will see you all in the next one.